The high-flying Dolphins offense. How do they stop these guys? Round 2, Pats Dolphins.
Yeah, so listen, they didn't do a horrible job of at least slowing them down the first time around, right? 24 points.
Mm-hmm.
And you look like a Big 12 defense to start that game with 3 high safeties. I mean, that is really what they did. They dipped into the college game, it felt like, a little bit. How rare is it, Zoe, to see 3 deep safeties the way they played it?
It's crazy.
So soft underneath.
Yep. And they gave you the flats, and credit Tua and McDaniel for taking the flats.
They took them,
yeah,
and they killed you.
Yep.
You know,
They
by
bled you.
paper cuts.
Yep.
Now, I think there's a little different blueprint that was laid out just a week ago by the Eagles, and the Eagles a different kind of defense.
Oh, yeah.
More talent, I would say, up front. Although the Patriots really believe in their front, guys. So even with Matthew Judon out, this is the kind of game where you look at your 4 down linemen, whoever they are, right? It's Dietrich Wise, Christian Barmore, Devon Godchaw, some combination of Josh Uche, Anthony Jennings. And you look at those guys, probably not Uche in an early down situation, but I think Jennings has actually been really good against the run.
Jennings has been good.
I mean, he's first and second down. He's everywhere. So you get 4 guys that on early downs can stop the run. It just allows you to play in coverage. It allows you to drop 7. All of a sudden, you've got a little bit of an advantage. You have a 2-man advantage. They get 5 receivers out into the route. You've got 7 in coverage. You can limit some of those explosive plays. You can put a cap on some of those vertical routes that they love to run. And you do the bend, don't break thing. Now, that's what the Eagles did. Again, the Eagles are more talented. They can get after Tua with 4 guys in a way that maybe you can't. But this is the kind of game where if Christian Barmore is really the stud that we all, I think at different points have assumed that he can be, this is the game where he needs to show up. And Uche, in a passing situation, needs to show up. They need to win their one-on-ones. They need to win those matchups at the line of scrimmage because you can't be in a situation where you spend a lot of time blitzing these guys and you're sacrificing numbers in coverage, and suddenly Tyreek Hill is one-on-one with anyone, even if it's Jonathan Jones, who's banged up, by the way. I think people look at this, well, they didn't have Jonathan Jones last time, and now they do. Well, they had Christian Gonzalez last time, and now they don't. You know, the secondary is not in a great spot to be able to handle the speed of this team. So you need numbers in coverage, and that means you need your guys up front to win.
Barmore's coming on. Barmore's coming on, too. Like that, the biggest thing you got advantage-wise, I think, defensively is Godchaw maybe played his best game last week.
Agreed.
And Barmore's coming on.
Agreed.
And I think Bentley's pretty good against the run, too. Like, they read things well. You know, it's just, who the hell's going to cover the flats? How are they going to defend that? Because you have to protect about the big play over the top, you know? So you're putting people back there.
Zoe, do they even care? Do they care? I'm
No.
serious.
They'll
Do you
give
care
it to
about the
you.
flats if you're worried about the guy who runs the 4-2 running by you for a
They're going to give it
60-yard
to you.
touchdown?
Bill's always said that. He's not going to get home runs over us. They're not doing it. They're not giving him the easy one.
And something that the Dolphins do that is actually interesting to me is even though we think of them as this high-flying team, they do use a lot of heavier personnel packages. Mm-hmm. 2 tight ends, 2 backs at times. They have a fullback on the roster. So what the Eagles did was they just played base defense. 4 defensive backs, 3 linebackers, 4 down linemen. And they handled them. That's the one thing, and I would love to hear what you guys think about this. But when I look at the Dolphins' schedule, and I know they put up 70 on an NFL team, which is extremely impressive. And they're creative, and they're fast, and they're talented. There's no question. I think Mike McDaniel's a great offensive mind. Outside of the Patriots, show me the good defense they've beaten. Is there one? I mean, you could go through it, and it's not all that impressive.
You guys did this the other night on NBC Sports Boston, and yeah. I mean, this is what you do when you start looking at schedules.
So you're saying
Chargers, Broncos, Giants, Panthers.
Mm-hmm.
Those are their wins. Great defense in there. Any of those?
No. That would be a no. And the 2, I would say, are the 3. Good, above average defenses that they've played. I include the Patriots there, so they score 24 on the road against the Patriots. Good for them. They score 20 on the road and get wiped out by the Bills, who at the time was a good defense, top 10 in a lot of different categories. They've since fallen off because of injury. And then the Eagles last week, they're in the teens. So I don't know. There's a part of me that says I'm still waiting for them to prove it against a really good defense. And I'm not saying that's what the Patriots are, but I am saying if you're hoping they can keep it close, that's how you do it. This Patriots defense steps up. They keep them in the low 20s again. You hope you don't turn it over, and you make it a game. That's it. It's not that complicated to me, in all honesty. I don't think you have to completely rewrite what you do on either side of the ball.
Do you think if you're the Dolphins, much changes in your game plan from the first game? and how they went after, what they did in that first game.
No, because I think they'll take what the Patriots give them.
I
and
agree.
I think the
I think it's
Patriots
gonna
will give them the same things.
I think it's going to look very similar.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think it's unreasonable for you to say you expect a similar type of result in terms of points for the Dolphins in this game.
The one
It
thing
could
that
look very similar.
The one thing that I would expect the Patriots to have an answer for that they really did not have an answer for in week 2, and Ted Johnson hit on this a bunch when we broke down this game the Monday after, was that week 2 was only the second week of this newfangled motion, this out motion, this cheat motion that Kyle Shanahan calls it, where
Felt
you
like
just
it could have been flagged.
you're in the slot.
Yep.
And you are out instead of going across the formation. You're heading towards the sideline. And yes, Beetle, it looks like at times you're already bending that thing upfield like it's the CFL.
Don't think the Patriots are not going to alert this crew before it because it is on their radar. I know that.
It should be.
I talked about it on the broadcast. It was brought up the week after. They're going forward at the snap a lot.
Oh, they're leaning. It's like a lean.
You can't lean.
There it is. There is movement toward the line of scrimmage at the snap by these guys that
It's
they
close.
could have. It's too damn close.
It's close
something
at
they should
times.
want to make sure they're keeping an eye on. I'm with Zoe. Like that's a good, smart thing to be alerting the crew. Like you guys got to keep an eye on this crap.
But even if they're doing it legally, the Patriots were getting beat consistently. Remember, and it wasn't
they
even
were.
just that player that was getting the football. They'd have the tight end who would just sneak into that little curl or hook area.
Tight end that never catches the ball, and then Braxton Berrios. Yeah.
And you've got Matthew Judon dropping into coverage from outside linebacker to try to take it away, and he's always an arm's length away from being able to get his hands on the football. So they have to have an answer for that because it felt like an automatic 8 yards whenever they wanted it in week 2. So Gerard Mayo, Steve Belichick, that's your challenge this week. You're going to take away the deep stuff. You're going to just sacrifice bodies and say we're not going to give it up, but you have to have some kind of answer for the intermediate stuff as well. Otherwise, they'll beat you the same way they did in week 2.